The ocean does not forget. Beneath miles of dark, silent water lie the remains of a war that reshaped the world, untouched, unseen, and in many cases, undiscovered for decades. For years after World War II ended, thousands of ships and submarines were simply missing. No graves, no closure, just coordinates lost to time. Then in 1985, something remarkable happened. A joint American-French expedition located the wreck of the USS Titanic. While not a World War II ship, the technology used to find it revolutionized deep-sea exploration. Suddenly, it became possible to search for vessels resting at depths once thought unreachable. And with that, the hunt for lost warships began in earnest. One of the most haunting discoveries came in 2015, when explorers finally found the Japanese battleship Musashi in the Sibuyan Sea. It had been sunk in 1944 during the Battle of Leyte Gulf, one of the largest naval battles in history. For over 70 years, it lay hidden nearly a kilometer beneath the surface. When cameras finally reached it, they revealed massive gun turrets, intact deck structures, and even the ship's chrysanthemum crest still visible, frozen in time. But not all discoveries are so grand. Some are eerily small. Scattered across the ocean floor are submarines, steel coffins that never returned. One such vessel is the German U-boat U-869. For decades, historians believed it had been sunk near Morocco, but in 1991, divers discovered its wreck off the coast of New Jersey. The mystery deepened when evidence suggested it may have been destroyed by its own torpedo, a tragic accident that sealed the fate of all 56 crew members on board. Each wreck tells a story that history books could never fully capture. The ocean preserves moments with chilling accuracy. Plates still set in mess halls, boots lying beside bunks, in some cases even human remains. These sites are not just relics, they are war graves, silent memorials to lives lost in an instant. And then there are the aircraft carriers. In 2019, the long-lost USS Wasp was finally located in the Coral Sea. Torpedoed in 1942, the ship had gone down in flames during a chaotic battle. When researchers examined the wreck, they found aircraft still resting on the flight deck, wings folded as if waiting for takeoff. It was as though time had stopped the moment the ship went under. Discoveries like these are not accidents. They are the result of years, sometimes decades of searching. Modern explorers use sonar mapping, autonomous underwater vehicles, and robotic submersibles capable of descending thousands of meters. These machines scan the seabed in high resolution, revealing shapes that human eyes would never detect. A shadow becomes a structure becomes a ship, and suddenly a piece of history resurfaces. But with every discovery comes a difficult question. Should we disturb these sites at all? Many historians and governments argue that these wrecks should remain untouched out of respect for those who died. Others believe they hold valuable information, clues that can rewrite what we know about naval warfare, tactics, and even the final moments of these ships. In recent years, another threat has emerged: illegal salvaging. Some wrecks have been stripped for scrap metal, erasing history forever. Entire ships have disappeared from the ocean floor, dismantled piece by piece without documentation. It is a race against time, not just to discover these wrecks, but to protect them. What makes these underwater discoveries so powerful is not just their scale or mystery, it is their silence. Down there are no explosions, no commands, no chaos, just stillness. A frozen battlefield where every object remains exactly where it fell. And yet each wreck whispers a story of final missions, of desperate battles, of crews who never made it home. Even today, experts estimate that thousands of W-2 vessels remain undiscovered. Somewhere in the vast darkness, more ships are waiting, untouched, unseen, and holding secrets that could change our understanding of the war forever. The ocean does not forget. It only waits. Beneath forests, mountains, and quiet European towns, another world was built in secrecy, a hidden network of tunnels, bunkers, and underground cities designed to survive the collapse of the surface above. During World War II, Nazi Germany invested enormous resources into constructing these concealed complexes, many of which were so well hidden that they remained undiscovered for decades. As the war turned against them, the Nazi leadership became obsessed with protection and secrecy. Bombing raids intensified, cities burned, and factories were destroyed. The solution was simple, yet extreme: move everything underground. Entire production lines, laboratories, and command centers were relocated beneath layers of rock and concrete, far from enemy eyes. One of the most mysterious of these projects was known as Project Riese, hidden deep within the Owl Mountains of Poland. Construction began in 1943, involving thousands of forced laborers. What they built was astonishing: kilometers of tunnels, massive chambers carved into solid rock, and reinforced corridors that seemed designed for something far more ambitious than mere storage. To this day, no one fully agrees on what Project Riese was meant to be. Some believe it was intended as a new headquarters for Adolf Hitler, a place where he could command the final stages of the war in absolute secrecy. Others argue it was meant for advanced weapons research, or even as a hidden industrial complex. What makes it so intriguing is that the project was never completed, and many of its sections remain unexplored or deliberately sealed. When modern explorers entered parts of these tunnels, they found something chilling: evidence of rushed abandonment. Tools left behind, equipment scattered, even unfinished walls, as if the workers had simply vanished. In some chambers, the ceilings rise dozens of meters high, large enough to house entire factories or military installations. But Project Riese is not alone. Across Europe, similar discoveries have revealed just how vast this underground world truly was. In Germany, the Mittelwerk complex was used to produce V-2 rockets, the world's first long-range guided ballistic missiles. Hidden inside a mountain, this factory operated under brutal conditions. Prisoners were forced to work in darkness, assembling weapons that would later strike cities across Europe. When Allied forces discovered Mittelwerk in 1945, they were stunned. The scale was immense: miles of tunnels filled with machinery, parts, and half-assembled rockets. It was clear that Nazi Germany had not only moved underground for protection, but also to continue fighting, even as the war closed in around them. Then there were the bunkers, reinforced shelters built to withstand direct bombardment. Some were relatively small, designed for military units or communication hubs. Others were enormous, like the Führer bunker in Berlin, where Hitler spent his final days. Though much of it was destroyed or buried after the war, its existence symbolized the desperation of a regime retreating beneath the surface. In more recent years, new technologies have revealed even more hidden structures. Ground-penetrating radar, 3D mapping, and satellite imaging have allowed researchers to detect anomalies beneath the Earth, voids, tunnels, and chambers that were never documented. In some cases, these discoveries have led to sealed entrances hidden behind collapsed rock or deliberately concealed during the final days of the war. What makes these underground complexes so fascinating is not just their size, but their purpose. They were built in secrecy, often without clear records, using forced labor and under extreme time pressure.
Many workers never survived, and those who did often had no idea what they were helping to create. There are also persistent legends, stories of hidden vaults, secret archives, and lost treasures buried within these tunnels. Some believe that priceless art, stolen during the war, may still be hidden deep underground. Others speculate about experimental technology or classified documents that were never recovered. While many of these claims remain unproven, the fact that new discoveries continue to be made suggests that not everything has been found. Exploring these sites today is both dangerous and delicate. Tunnels can collapse without warning, oxygen levels can drop, flooded chambers and unstable structures make deep exploration risky even for experienced teams, and yet the search continues. Because every tunnel, every bunker, every hidden chamber is a piece of a larger puzzle, a glimpse into a world that was never meant to be seen, a world built in fear, secrecy, and urgency as the war above ground spiraled toward its end. And perhaps the most unsettling part is this: we still don't know how much remains hidden.
War does not only destroy, it scatters. In the chaos of collapsing empires, retreating armies, and vanishing regimes, immense amounts of wealth simply disappeared. Gold, priceless art, rare artifacts, entire fortunes were moved, hidden, or lost during the final years of World War II. And decades later, some of it has never been found. As Nazi Germany began to fall, orders were given to relocate vast reserves of gold and stolen valuables. These were not small amounts. Entire vaults were emptied, museums stripped, and private collections seized across occupied Europe. The goal was clear: keep these treasures out of enemy hands at any cost. One of the most enduring mysteries is the legend of the so-called Nazi gold train, believed to be hidden somewhere in Poland. According to witnesses, a heavily armored train loaded with gold, jewels, and valuable artifacts vanished near the end of the war, possibly concealed in a tunnel system connected to projects like Project Riese. Over the years, treasure hunters have searched relentlessly using ground-penetrating radar and excavation equipment, but no confirmed discovery has ever been made. Then there is the story of the Amber Room, a masterpiece of craftsmanship made entirely of amber panels, gold leaf, and mirrors. Originally located in Russia, it was looted by Nazi forces and transported to Germany. After that, it vanished without a trace. Some believe it was destroyed during bombing raids. Others think it was hidden in a bunker, a mine, or even sunk in a ship to prevent its capture. Despite countless investigations, its true fate remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of the war. Gold itself tells another story. In 1945, Allied forces discovered massive reserves of stolen wealth hidden inside a salt mine in Germany. Known as the Merkers Mine, this site contained not only gold bars, but also sacks of currency, artwork, and valuables taken from across Europe. The sheer scale of the discovery was staggering, proof of a systematic effort to hide enormous wealth underground. But not all treasures were recovered so clearly. Some were lost at sea. As ships carrying gold and valuables attempted to escape advancing forces, many were sunk by submarines or aircraft. These wrecks now lie deep beneath the ocean, their cargo untouched. In some cases, modern expeditions have located ships believed to carry treasure, but legal battles over ownership have complicated recovery efforts. There are also personal fortunes, collections hidden by individuals hoping to return one day. Families buried jewelry in gardens, concealed paintings behind walls, or locked valuables in secret compartments.
Many never came back. Over time, some of these hidden caches have been discovered by accident during construction, renovations, or even simple digging. Others may still lie hidden in plain sight, waiting to be uncovered. What makes these lost treasures so compelling is not just their value, but their stories. Each item has a history, a journey from its original owner, through war and theft into disappearance. Recovering them is not just about wealth, but about restoring pieces of the past. Yet the search is often clouded by myth and exaggeration. For every genuine discovery, there are countless false leads and fabricated claims. Treasure hunting has become a mix of history, science, and speculation. Still, the possibility that something extraordinary remains hidden keeps people searching. Even today, new clues continue to emerge. Declassified documents, eyewitness testimonies, and advanced scanning technologies have reopened investigations once thought impossible. In forests, mountains, and underground tunnels, teams continue to follow faint traces left behind more than 70 years ago. And sometimes the discoveries are unexpected. A buried cache of coins, a hidden painting behind a wall, a forgotten vault beneath a city street. These moments remind us that history is not always where we expect it to be. Somewhere out there, perhaps deep underground or beneath the sea, there are still treasures waiting, untouched since the final days of the war. Not just symbols of wealth, but echoes of a time when everything was at risk, and people were willing to hide entire fortunes to protect what they believed mattered most. The war may be over, but the search is far from finished.
War accelerates innovation, but sometimes it pushes technology far beyond what the world is ready to understand. During World War II, nations were locked in a race not just for victory, but for technological superiority. And in that race, some ideas were so advanced, so experimental, that they remained hidden or misunderstood for decades. As the conflict intensified, Nazi Germany began developing weapons that seemed almost futuristic. Among the most infamous was the V-2 rocket, the first long-range guided ballistic missile capable of reaching the edge of space before striking its target. Built in secrecy and launched without warning, it marked the beginning of modern rocketry. When Allied forces later captured V-2 components and documents, they realized they were looking at technology years ahead of its time. But the V-2 was only the beginning. Hidden in remote airfields and underground facilities were experimental aircraft unlike anything seen before. One of these was the Messerschmitt Me-262, the world's first operational jet-powered fighter. Faster than any Allied aircraft, it had the potential to change air combat entirely. However, delays, limited resources, and strategic mistakes prevented it from turning the tide of the war. Even more unusual were the so-called wonder weapons, projects driven as much by desperation as by innovation. Designs for flying wings, vertical takeoff aircraft, and high-speed bombers were sketched, tested, and in some cases partially built. Some prototypes were discovered after the war, hidden in hangars or buried in forests, their true capabilities never fully realized. The Allies were not far behind. In complete secrecy, the United States launched the Manhattan Project, a scientific effort that brought together some of the greatest minds of the time. The result was the atomic bomb, a weapon of unprecedented power. When it was first used, it not only ended the war in the Pacific, but also introduced the world to a new and terrifying era of warfare. Years later, declassified documents and recovered materials revealed just how close some of these projects came to changing history. Engineers and scientists were working at the edge of possibility, often without fully understanding the long-term consequences of their creations. Some discoveries are physical, rusting prototypes, incomplete machines, or blueprints found in abandoned facilities.
Others are hidden in archives, documents that were classified for decades only to be revealed long after the war ended. Together, they paint a picture of a time when innovation was driven by urgency, fear, and the constant pressure to outpace the enemy. One of the most fascinating aspects of these discoveries is how they influenced the future. After the war, many scientists were recruited by both the United States and the Soviet Union, bringing their knowledge with them. Technologies that began as weapons of war eventually shaped space exploration, aviation, and modern engineering. Yet not everything was recovered or understood. Some projects were destroyed before they could be captured. Others were abandoned in remote locations, their remains slowly fading into the landscape. There are even reports of experimental devices that were never documented at all, ideas that existed only briefly before disappearing with the people who created them. This uncertainty has led to speculation and myth. Stories of advanced weapons, secret experiments, and unexplained technologies continue to circulate, blurring the line between fact and fiction. While many of these claims are exaggerated, the confirmed discoveries alone are enough to show that the technological landscape of World War II was far more complex than it once seemed. What makes these discoveries so compelling is not just their innovation, but their timing. Many of these technologies appeared too early in a world not yet ready to fully utilize or understand them. They were glimpses of the future, emerging in the middle of one of the darkest periods in human history. And even now, researchers continue to uncover fragments of this hidden past, pieces of machinery, forgotten plans, and lost experiments that reveal just how far science was pushed during the war. Because sometimes the most powerful discoveries are not the ones that were used, but the ones that were left behind.
Not all discoveries are made of steel, gold, or machinery. Some are far more fragile. Pieces of paper, faded photographs, and personal belongings left behind in the chaos of World War II. These are the discoveries that don't just reveal what happened, they reveal who it happened to. For decades after the war, countless families were left with unanswered questions. Soldiers who never returned, letters that never arrived, graves that were never found. The scale of the conflict meant that millions of personal stories were lost, buried beneath the larger narrative of battles and strategies. But time has a way of uncovering even the most delicate traces. In forests across Europe, construction sites, and even remote farmland, human remains are still being discovered. Some are identified through modern forensic science, DNA analysis, dental records, and military tags. What was once an unknown soldier can suddenly become a name, a face, a story returned to a family after generations of silence. Organizations like the Volksbund Deutsche Kriegsgräbervorsorge and the Defense POW MIA Accounting Agency work tirelessly to locate and identify those who never came home. Each recovery is more than a scientific process. It is a moment of closure, often decades overdue. Sometimes the most powerful discoveries are found in the smallest objects: a rusted helmet with initials scratched inside, a watch stopped at the exact moment of impact, a photograph of a loved one carried across continents and battlefields. These items preserved by chance offer a direct connection to individuals who lived through extraordinary circumstances. Then there are the diaries and letters, personal accounts written in real time, never intended for history books. In attics, old trunks, and forgotten archives, these documents continue to surface. They tell stories of fear, hope, boredom, and resilience. Not grand strategies or political decisions, but the everyday reality of those caught in the middle of war. One soldier writes about the cold, the hunger, and the longing to return home. Another describes the silence after battle, the unsettling quiet that follows chaos. These words, written decades ago, still carry an emotional weight that no official report can match.
In some cases, entire collections of letters have been discovered, preserved by families who never knew their full significance. When historians study them, they often uncover new perspectives on well-known events, details that were never recorded elsewhere. There are also stories hidden in places where no one expected to find them. In abandoned buildings, behind walls, beneath floorboards, messages left behind, sometimes deliberately concealed. These can include names, dates, or even simple notes, as if someone wanted to leave proof that they were there. One of the most moving aspects of these discoveries is how personal they feel. Unlike ships or weapons, these items belonged to individuals. They were carried, touched, and valued in moments of uncertainty. Finding them is like reaching across time and briefly connecting with someone who lived through one of history's most intense periods. And yet, many stories are still missing. Experts estimate that thousands of soldiers from WWII remain unaccounted for, their resting places unknown, their final moments undocumented. Each new discovery brings hope that another story can be completed, another family can finally have answers. Modern technology is playing a crucial role in this process. DNA databases, digital archives, and global cooperation have made it possible to identify individuals in ways that were unimaginable just a few decades ago. What was once an unknown soldier can suddenly become a name, a face, a story returned to a family after generations of silence. But beyond identification, these discoveries serve another purpose. They remind us that war is not just a series of events, it is a collection of human experiences. Every soldier, every civilian, every person affected had a life beyond the conflict. Dreams, relationships, plans for the future, all interrupted or changed forever. When we uncover these personal artifacts, we are not just learning about the past, we are preserving memory. We are ensuring that these lives are not reduced to numbers or statistics. Because in the end, the most important discoveries are not the ones that shock us, but the ones that make us feel. The war may have ended long ago, but its human stories are still being found, quietly, patiently, waiting to be remembered.